Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the very DNA of the modern workplace. We're going to look at a huge clash of ideas between two absolute giants of management theory, and their principles still control how pretty much every business you can think of actually operates. So imagine it's the Industrial Revolution. Factories are popping up everywhere, getting bigger and bigger. But here's the problem. Nobody really knew how to run them. It was a mess. This was the great puzzle of the age, and two brilliant minds stepped up to try and solve it from completely different angles. So let's meet our contenders. In one corner, you've got Henri Fayol, often called the father of modern management. He was an engineer in France who believed you could design the perfect organization from the top down. And in the other corner, we have Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management. He was an American engineer who started from the bottom up. It's a battle of ideas that, believe me, is still happening in our offices today. Okay, so let's jump in with our first contender, Henri Fayol. Now, he'd look at a huge, complicated company and see it like a building. He thought it could be designed, managed, and perfected. But you just needed a universal set of rules, a blueprint, really. Fayol's big idea, what we call his administrative theory, was actually pretty revolutionary for its time. He said that being a good manager isn't some magical talent you're born with. No, it's a skill. It's something you can learn and teach. He believed you could build an amazing organization just by giving managers a clear set of principles, like a blueprint for success that would work for the whole company. So he came up with 14 of these principles in total. We're not going to go through all of them, don't worry, but let's just hit a few of the big ones. First, there's division of work, which is basically about getting people to specialize to get more done. Then there's unity of command. This one's huge. It means every employee should only have one boss. And finally, esprit de corps, which is all about building team spirit. You know, that whole union is strength idea. Fayol really hammered this unity of command point home. He argued that if you have an employee reporting to 2 or 3 or more bosses, it just creates chaos. You get conflicting orders, nobody knows what the real priority is, and the whole thing grinds to a halt. And he even drew it out to show what he meant. Here's his picture of the wrong way to do it. You've got one poor employee stuck in the middle, getting different instructions from 2 different managers. I mean, who are you supposed to listen to? It's a total recipe for disaster. And then, here's the right way. See how clean and simple that is? A clear, logical chain of command. Everyone knows exactly who their boss is. For Fayol, the architect, it was all about having this kind of beautiful, simple structure. Okay, so that's Fayol's grand blueprint for the entire organization. But what about the actual nitty-gritty work being done on the factory floor? Well, for that, we have to turn to our second contender, F.W. Taylor. And if Fayol was the architect looking at the whole building, Taylor was the scientist with a microscope, analyzing every single brick. This quote right here, it perfectly captures everything Taylor was about. He was obsessed with the idea that for any job, there was one single best way to do it. And it wasn't about guessing or just doing things the way they've always been done. Nope, it was management's job to find that one best way using science. So how did he find this one best way? Well, he had a 4-step process he called work study. He'd start with a time study, literally timing a task with a stopwatch. Then a method study to find the most efficient technique. After that, a motion study to get rid of any wasted movements. He even did a fatigue study to figure out the perfect amount of rest time. Now, this was incredible for productivity, but it also got a lot of heat for treating workers kind of like cogs in a machine, a debate that's still going on today. And here's the thing to really get about Taylor. No task was too small for him to analyze. He famously studied the simple job of loading iron sheets onto train cars and turned it into a science. To him, nothing was just manual labor. Everything could be optimized. So we've got the top-down architect versus the bottom-up scientist, the grand blueprint versus the microscopic analysis. So who won? Who was right? Well, here's the twist. They both were. They were just solving different parts of the same huge puzzle. This table really breaks it down nicely. Fayol was all about the big picture, the administration, the managers, looking at everything from the top down. Taylor, on the other hand, was laser-focused on the workers and their tasks, looking at everything from the bottom up. Put it this way, Fayol gave us the blueprint for the building, and Taylor gave us the science for how to make every single brick perfectly. All right, so you might be thinking, Okay, interesting history lesson, but this was 100 years ago. What does it have to do with my job today? The answer is pretty much everything. The work lives we have today were fundamentally designed by these two guys. Their fingerprints are all over the place.
Just think about it for a second. At your job, do you have one direct boss? Do you know who your boss reports to? That whole org chart, that clear chain of command, that is a direct inheritance from Henri Fayol. You are literally living and working inside a structure he helped design.
And what about Taylor? Oh, he is everywhere. Anytime a company talks about performance metrics or tries to make a process faster, like a script for a call center agent or the exact way they assemble a burger in a fast food kitchen, that's the ghost of F.W. Taylor standing right there with his stopwatch. And that is the absolute key takeaway. These two guys weren't really enemies. They were two sides of the same coin. They're the twin pillars that modern management is built on. One of them gave us the skeleton, the structure and the order, and the other gave us the muscles, the efficiency and the science of how to actually do the work. So that's our look at the founders of management theory. But it leaves us with a really fascinating question for today, right? As our jobs become more about creativity and knowledge and less about just repeating a task, whose ideas do we need more? Do we need Fayol's structure and team spirit? Or do we need Taylor's relentless push for efficiency? Or maybe it's time for a completely new blueprint. Thanks for tuning in.